Okay, good morning. Happy post Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday and spent some good time with friends and family. And today we're getting back at our mastermind sessions. And we wanted to talk about this NAR settlement that recently went through. So it was settled upon, but there are definitely some key points to take away. And actually, Brett Woodburn reached out to us and wanted us to express these points to all our agents so that everybody's aware of some of these major items here that just took place in regards to the settlement. So I am going to share my screen here. Give me just a second, and then we'll go through these main points. All right, so hopefully you all can see my email drafted from Brett Woodburn here. So I'm going to let a couple more people log into the meeting. All right, we'll start reading through here. So, in regards to this settlement, the plaintiff's lawyers state that the buyer's agents increasing their compensation agreements after they learn what the listing agent slash seller is willing to offer violates this settlement agreement. So there can be no adjustment of your written buyer agency agreement to match whatever compensation that the listing agent or seller is offering. Secondly, I know we talked about this, but seller paid bonuses to agents violate the settlement agreement if the bonus is in excess of the amount that's agreed upon in the fee section described in your buyer agency agreement. So if a listing seller or anybody is offering a, whatever X amount bonus to have it under contract by a certain date, um, the total sum of fees that you're collecting cannot be in excess of what's in your buyer's agency agreement. Now, moving on here, if a buyer purchases a home toured during the term of a touring or showing agreement, the buyer cannot earn more than the fee negotiated in the touring or showing agreement. Now, this is different than the interpretation that we had previously from Brett Woodburn. When we met with him, he originally seemed to hold the opinion and understanding that you could link the touring agreement with your buyer agency agreement and collect both fees. Obviously, this was kind of vague throughout the country, and there were different interpretations. At which point they brought it up in this settlement filing that, hey, this practice is not acceptable. Whatever's in your buyer agency agreement, you can't exceed that. So if you simply have a touring form and you say that I'm only charging you $100 to show a house for each house that showed. If you put them under contract, you can't, collect more than that $100. So it's my opinion that a lot of these touring forms, the way they were drafted, aren't exactly going to be the best practice or what you really want to use. I think if you have a cold lead that you're trying to build rapport with, that non-exclusive buyer agency agreement that PAR drafted is probably the best course of action for those types of situations. It still allows you to be the agent for that client for a certain property as you designate that within that form, but it doesn't marry the two of you for the end of time. So it allows the buyer to continue shopping and using different agents if they so choose, but it at least protects you for that property. Moving on here, this is kind of a reiteration of some of the other points, tailoring a buyer agency contract so that the buyer broker compensation equals what the seller or listing agent is willing to offer is clearly a violation of the settlement agreement. So, obviously, this was all about commissions being negotiable, but if you're simply just tailoring whatever agency agreement that you have between your buyer and yourself in representing on there whatever the listing or seller is offering, that's a violation of this settlement agreement, and you should not do that. Um, Obviously, you should have a buyer agency agreement in place prior to showing the home. Legally, you have to have some written agreement in place before you tour the property with a singular buyer. Obviously, open houses are a different scenario. We've discussed that in the past, and even being a listing agent, letting someone else's buyer in. There's exceptions to the rule, but you need to have a buyer agency agreement, not necessarily the PAR one, but a written agreement in place before you can show a home to a buyer. And in that agreement, you can't just simply match whatever the listing agent or seller is willing to offer. Uncle Tim, after going through this, do you want to share some thoughts, opinions?
Well, it doesn't surprise me with some of the stuff that came out with it. The only thing that bothers me a little bit is this touring agreement because we literally spent the money to hire the attorney to draft a touring agreement. I guess my question would be, and we'd have to ask Brett Woodburn this, could the touring agreement be for a short period of time and then enter into a buyer broker agreement? You're
I
allowed to
don't,
have two separate agreements because, you know, it just seems funny that you can't do that.
it would be a good question for him. I don't know if he could draft a agency agreement that includes a touring phase and a under contract or pursuing a property phase within one singular agreement. That to me would make a little more sense than having two different ones. But yeah, definitely a good question to bring up
Yeah,
to
well, I
him.
mean, like, let's say you get a buyer that doesn't want to commit to signing with you right now, but wants to look at some houses, and you're willing to do it for $100 a day. Let's just say $100 a day. So you go out and show them houses for $100 a day, and maybe that agreement's for 2 days. Okay, and they pay you $200. And then they call you up a couple days later and say, I do think I want to buy a house now. And I am willing to sign with you. Now you sign a buyer broker form. And that buyer broker form is for X number of pineapples or whatever we're calling them today. And now you've entered into a new agreement. I mean, I'm just saying the workaround to me would be that you've signed a touring agreement, you got paid for that. Now you've signed a buyer broker agreement, and you're hopefully going to get a house under contract. Is that not legal or is it legal?
Tim,
It's
Yeah,
wouldn't it be possible to take that $200 or pineapples or whatever it is and roll that into your commission, that it becomes part of that 2.5 or 3%?
I think they said that is possible, right, Brooks? You can't exceed. Can you go
yeah,
back and read that paragraph again?
I can go back. So what it says on here is that if a buyer purchases a home tour during the term of a touring or showing agreement, the buyer broker cannot earn more than the fee negotiated during the touring or showing agreement. So if you're touring, excuse me, if your touring agreement does not have in it, the fee that you're charging the buyer to purchase it and only has a fee designating the amount for per day for showing houses, you can't earn more than that per day fee. If you have something that's drafted that maybe incorporates both those fees, maybe it still could work, but I still think that's a good question for for Brett.
Is anybody even using this touring thing, or is this just something that was created that, hey, you could do this if you want to do it? I mean, I personally probably would never do it. But is there anybody that has used it? No? So I don't think it's even a subject we got to worry about at this point, unless there's somebody within the company that definitely wants to use a touring agreement, then we would need to dig a little deeper into it.
Yeah, again, I like that non-exclusive buyer agency for that person that you may not know. If you're just going out and showing a couple properties, you can list those addresses on there and designate what fee you charge to represent them, and it allows you to show the property, but it doesn't totally bind you um, for a long duration of time. And you guys can go your separate ways if you choose that you don't want to work together.
Right. Con, what are your thoughts on any of the things that Brett Woodburn have went over?
I don't really have any opinion, but it just seems like everything has to be done. It can't be after the fact anymore, right? So just get your buyer agency, sit down with the client, and go over the forms with them.
Make sure they understand it, that the possibility is they might have to pay a commission.
Right.
Is there anybody on the call that's having any difficulty with the new systems, or does everything seem to have calmed down and things are working out where sellers are still paying the commissions on the majority of the time, whether you're putting it on, what is it, line 3A, or whether you're using a co-broke form? Are we still all having most sellers pay the commissions? Or have there been any cases where you've had to actually charge the buyer a commission? Has anybody had any cases where they've had to charge the buyer? Brooks, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened on that.
The agent listed a property in Camp Hill, and I reached out to them as I always do and asked if they were offering any cooperating compensation, as I think it's line 6A in their listing agreement. And it was a very weird answer that I got from this agent, but essentially it amounted to no, they're not offering anything, and that's between you and your buyer. So we made an offer. I made the buyer aware of that, and luckily they were in a financial position that they were able to, pay that cost out of the pocket and, you know, meet their requirements for their loan as well. So we were able to get it under contract and make it work.
Okay, good. Is there anybody else that has had this example where they've had to charge their buyer, or is everybody still seem to be getting it one way or another from the seller?
Brooks, was that a multiple offer situation then? It was, so you didn't have it. Yeah, okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious, like I figured, or you could write it in, but okay.
Yeah, I actually have had to not, my buyer hasn't had to pay the full commission, but I just did a house that was not, it was a lower price as well. And I had to have the buyer pay a certain amount to make up for that. And we just did that in the cost sheet in the beginning when we asked how much, and that's like based off their offer. So they offered less and were able to like get the house for a lower price, but they still had to pay a portion of my commission. And then I also did, which I know I started controversy before, but when I just sold Travis's parents' house, I did not offer a commission up front. And I just told all the agents that the sellers are willing to pay a commission just to write it in the contract. And they ended up, it did come down to multiple offers, and the agent did actually, like, once they knew there was multiple offers, the agents came back and changed their commission. So just a food for thought.
Kong, if you wouldn't mind explaining, we had an agent within the office that unfortunately got caught in a multiple offer situation. They reached out to the listing agent. The listing agent had mentioned they would pay up to a certain amount, and the wording in the text message was up to. And then there was no co-broke form signed initially before the offer was presented. There was no co-broke form sent when the offer was presented and signed, and it was not put in line 3A. And then our agent, unfortunately, was not able to get paid on this deal because they won the contract, but they won the contract because there was no commission that was agreed upon up front. Can you
And
kind
no
of,
co-broke.
and no co-broke? So
I think you explained it pretty well there.
our agent
Yeah,
literally had to do the deal for free
yeah, unfortunately.
because
Um,
there was no co-broke form sent up front and received signed before you sent the offer, and it was not put on line 3A.
right. Yeah, the text said the seller was willing to pay up to X%, which isn't a definitive number, right? You can't say, well, I got it in text that you're offering, but it wasn't a definitive number. And it was the seller that was offering it, not the co-broke. So if the seller's offering it, then it needs to be on the contract.
And in this particular case, we did not get, you had some conversations with the other agents, and they weren't great conversations, obviously. But we were worried about whether or not the agent charged the seller and didn't pay our agent. And what we found out was the agent did not charge the seller, right? I think it just closed like a week ago, or last week. And we did find out on the settlement sheet that it was done correctly, that the agent didn't take the commission and then just not pay our agent. The commission was not charged to the seller. So when they presented the offers, they presented them as if our agent was going to collect from the buyer, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Correct.
So just beware that you either need to use line 3A or you need to get a co-broke form signed in advance of presenting an offer, I guess is the bottom line, correct?
And a buyer agency.
And a buyer agency. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the attention of the group to? I think everything is smoothed out and is working pretty seamlessly again. Other than not advertising these commissions. I know Regina and I were just recently out showing houses, and as I set up the showings, I was texting the agent asking if they were willing to pay a commission, and you know, most of them responded back with an amount in the text message. Regina did get the deal and actually put it in line 3A since we didn't have it signed previously. So, you know, I think it's working pretty seamlessly. I don't know, is everybody else feeling the same way? Okay. Aaron, what could you kind of go over, Aaron, the schedule of what is going on with the Santa, or the decorating of the lobby, the Santa situation, the pig out, and whatever else we got on tap here for the month of December, since we're already into the month of December.
Yeah, so this I'm sure everybody's kind of feeling it, but from Thanksgiving to Christmas has gone so quick that I don't know what's happening to it, but we are going to decorate for Christmas this weekend around 1 p.m. today. So the tree, everything will be put up this weekend. Sunday, 1 to 4 is our hot chocolate bar, cookies, Santa. This year we have not only a digital photographer, but he's going to be printing the pictures on site. So your clients will be able to take pictures home with them. We'll have the kids decorating the ornaments. Tim usually mans that because, you know, he loves kids. So, but yeah, it's going to be a great time. We usually have a great turnout. So please, you know, tell your friends and family and, you know, come out on Sunday and enjoy some fun.
Can we have Brenna put something on our Facebook site so that we can make it shareable? That we can all tag onto that and try to get more people to attend this thing on Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have the, the PDF and stuff I was sending out to send to your clients and stuff. So if you want to text them, I know I texted a couple people, friends, family. It really is a fun day. We have a lot of fun, and JB is definitely the best Santa there is. Um,
And
so
what's
the,
the schedule for the pig out?
the company pig out is on the,
Is
I'm,
it the 18th?
I'm still new. I haven't changed my calendar to December. That's kind of a problem. Yes, the 18th. So I'll resend out another email. We have that Eventbrite sign up for anything that you want to bring. We always have plenty of food. It's tons of fun. A couple of people have already signed up. So that's at 11:30. We'll supply the main dish as always. But that's always a good day to get together and just, socialize and have fun between us and see everybody that we don't get to see all the time.
And do we know what the main dish is this year? And we're not letting Brent in charge of it?
Brent will not be making the lasagna this year. Yeah, that didn't work out. So no, we need to talk about it. So we'll let everybody know once we've decided on that.
Okay. And everybody, Brent's having a big surgery on Friday. He's going to be out of commission for a while. So say your prayers, I guess, for Brent and his recovery. He's having a complete shoulder redone. So he's going to be a little uncomfortable for a few weeks, if not longer.
Tim, are you going to go take good care of him?
I offered, but he doesn't seem to want me to help. So he's on his
I'd
own.
love for you to come help and be my caregiver. That would be so wonderful.
Okay.
Get a little bell.
Yeah.
I bet he sends Regina.
He will.
That's all I have, Brooks. Anything else you want to say or add to it?
No, I think it was a good meeting. Just, keep these thoughts in mind here while you're moving forward and practicing your business.
Yep. Sounds good, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.